I went into the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and to see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. By Henry David Thoreau. Welcome back to Tragedy with a View. Hello all and happy holidays, and welcome back to the last episode of Tragedy with a View for 2024. This is going to be a shorter episode, and when I put this one on my list and finally made it to this story, I didn't realize the connection it was going to have when it came time to actually release this episode, and we will come to that in just a moment. But first, Sally holds a photo of her son with a smile that beckons the memories of his life as he grew from a child into a man, and her eyes fill with tears. A mother will always be connected to her child, and when one is lost, it leaves a gaping hole that cannot be filled in. The memories of life, of growth, of discovery clash with the thoughts of what could have been, and where their child would be now if things had turned out differently. Those memories do not fill a void. Instead, they spark an inferno that can only cause a person to succumb to the happiest of memories and the most joyous heart, or crumble into debilitating pain and darkness that is inevitably accompanied by loss. Unfortunately for John Holden, his 26 years of life in the physical world would come to an end, but his memory would live on for years, decades, and lifetimes. John, who was called Jack, was a vibrant and happy person. He ran at life with everything he had, determined to seek out experiences and meaning in even the most mundane. He had a huge sense of humor, and it seemed that he could make anyone laugh. He sought out connection, whether that was with others or experiences. To Jack, it mattered only that he was making the days count. But with this energy also came a calm and a passion for what he loved. He was willing to dig deep on topics and think critically while also hearing what others were saying. He knew what he wanted to do with life, and he chased after that. Hiking, being a DJ, playing soccer, and working with children were all at the front of that list. Jack was the youngest of 3 kids, but he was Sally and Ed's only biological child. His older siblings, Kate and Seth, were both adopted from Korea. As Christmas approached, Jack was gearing up for some time with his family as he was going to college to get his master's degree, so that way he could teach elementary ages, and while he was visiting his family, he planned to take a new hike while he was there. Now, Jack is not an average, casual hiker. He was an Eagle Scout, which is the highest rank that you can achieve in the Boy Scouts of America, and this is not an easy feat. It requires a lot of time and a lot of knowledge and taking a lot of classes and excursions to learn and build upon the knowledge that you have. And Jack absolutely used this knowledge. He was known to go hiking in the winter and being prepared for many different scenarios or potential outcomes, and being educated and prepared was not all that he did. While he attended a semester at Oxford College in England, he hiked 96 miles of Scotland's longest hiking trail, the Highland Way Trail, and participated in a national outdoor leadership training, which required 72 days in the Yukon. He had climbed to the highest peak in 9 states and was aiming to hit the highest peak in all 50 states. And as someone who has looked into that myself, I can tell you that Ohio is not very exciting. But still, you get the idea. Jack loved to be in the wilderness and thrived there. He looked for challenges that he could meet head on and brought home stories to tell his family and friends about what he experienced, what he learned, the views he saw, and the lessons that the wilderness can teach us. Jack texted his mom, Sally, on Christmas Eve 2016 to tell her that he was heading out to complete a day-long hike to Mount Bond and that he would be home that night no later than 11 p.m. While Jack never climbed Mount Bond before, no one was worried. Mount Bond is located in Lincoln, New Hampshire in the White Mountains. It is located in the Twin Range in the Pemigewasset Wilderness, and the hike itself can be quite challenging for some, but also not so challenging for those who are very experienced. Mount Bond stands 4,698 feet or 1,432 meters, and the trail that takes you to the summit is an out and back style trail. The closest trail you can take to the summit is about 9 miles, making it 18 miles long if you go there and back, or you can continue along the entire trail, bagging the 2 extra peaks of West Bond and Bond Cliff, standing at 4,540 feet and 4,265 feet, or 1,384 and 1,300 meters, respectively. To take this entire trail, you can do an out and back style, taking you 22.6 miles or 36.4 kilometers, or you can have someone pick you up at the other end. And the layout of the mountains I kind of explained confusingly, and I apologize. So depending on which direction you come from, you will climb to one of the smaller peaks first before continuing to Mount Bond, which sits in the middle. If you start on the north, starting at Zealand Road, you will climb West Bond, Mount Bond, and then Bond Cliff. Or if you start on the south side, like I believe Jack did, you would climb Bond Cliff first, and then Mount Bond, and finally West Bond. West Bond is closest to the Lincoln Visitor Center on Kankamakus Highway, and this is the preferred starting location. All 3 of the peaks are above the tree line, which means that you get spectacular views of the remote wilderness surrounding the area, and no matter which direction you travel from, the trail does become technical, so it is highly recommended that solid hiking shoes with really good traction are worn. Generally, people will do this hike over the course of 2 days, but those who are really fit and really experienced can go the full way in a single day. If you want to do this hike yourself, there are some camping areas such as the Appalachian Mountain Club Backcountry Hunts or the Guyot campsite. And while the hike is long and challenging, search and rescue does respond on occasion, but it is mostly due to injured hikers. Though the weather in December adds a certain degree of difficulty that should not be taken lightly. With temperatures reaching as low as -15 degrees Fahrenheit or -26 degrees Celsius, snow can pummel the area while freezing winds compress the moisture and turn the snow and rock into ice. When Jack set out sometime in the early afternoon on Christmas Eve, he went prepared. He took a day pack with him that was full of first aid gear and warmer clothes should he need them. He also had a locator beacon on him in the event of an emergency. Again, he was expecting to be home before midnight. But the following morning, Sally had not heard anything from her son. This is Christmas Day, and if there's anything she knows about him, it is that he will contact you when he's safe. And that means when he comes home from a hike. But the silence is concerning, and she can't get rid of this feeling in her gut that something isn't right. So she makes a call, and searchers from New Hampshire's Fish and Game Department are quick to respond. They knew where he was intending to be based on the information he had given his mother, and so their first course of action was to follow that information and see what they could find and where it would lead them. But the team wouldn't need to follow any clues. About 12 hours after the initial call came in that Jack was missing, search and rescue found him near the summit of Bond Cliff, which is roughly 8.5 to 9 miles or 13.5 to 14.5 kilometers to reach the summit. They found Jack lying on the ground and he was deceased. The rescuers stayed with his body on the summit in a winter grade tent, and Jack was airlifted from the summit at about 8:30 the following morning. Based on what they found, or I guess what they didn't find, they concluded that he likely died from hypothermia and exposure. Jack's gear was all in perfect condition for how much he used it, but the one clue that indicated he was disoriented was that Jack had put on his jacket upside down. Christmas is supposed to be a day for joy and celebration and being grateful to be able to surround yourself with those you love, and when financially able, many include gifts on this day. But for the Holdens, they were instead given the sad news that Jack had not survived the hike. But if there is a lesson in his death, let it be this. Life is meant to be lived, even when it hurts, even when it's sad, even when getting out of bed is a feat in itself. Finding a reason to continue on and continue smiling can feel overwhelming at times, but there is always worth in surrounding yourself with what brings you joy. Like Jack, creating goals to put yourself directly in the path of what brings you joy is a simple way to choose life, to choose happiness, and to choose experience. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great holiday season, no matter what that looks like. Please take a moment to leave a positive rating or review. And if you don't already follow the show, you know what to do. Have a great holiday season, and we will be talking soon. Bye. What is life without close calls with disaster? Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow the podcast to be the first to hear the now weekly episodes. Join our subscription on Patreon, Apple, or Spotify today and immerse yourself in the haunting beauty of the great outdoors. For around $4 a month, you'll get exclusive access to the first episode of each month and early access to all other episodes, showcasing the morbid and mysterious side of nature. Please reach out with story requests, and if you have your own story, please email tragedywithaview@gmail.com for a chance to have your story featured on a later episode. Again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.